Okay. Irma, I think we have everyone in from the waiting room, so you can go ahead.
Well, welcome everyone to the FY 2022 Hispanic-Serving Institutions Education's Grants Program webinar. We're delighted to launch the 2022 RFA and show you the different activities that you could do to actually get funded. Next slide. Meeting logistics. This webinar will be recorded. Please sure your microphone is off. If you have any questions, you could call this 888 number. Through the presentation, it's okay for you to type any questions that you might have, and I'll try to get to them as I make the presentation, or just at the end, we'll go but have some time for questions and we'll look at the chat. The slides and the recording from this conference will be posted on the link listed below. And one of the things we're gonna do is share the PowerPoint once we're clear for 508 compliance and other requirements. So thank you. There is a non-discriminatory statement that we have to share. And I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes for you to read this. So it is very important to this administration. So this non-discriminatory statement to be presented to all of you. And this is what we follow through the agency. Next slide. Okay, so you probably all know Kellyanne Jones. You want to say hello, Kellyanne, and wave to everyone?
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. Kellyanne Jones Champguard. I'm happy to see a lot of names I recognize in the participant list, but I'm the program specialist for the Hispanic-Serving Education Program, and I'm happy to work with all of you during the application process and then work with all of our grantees throughout the life of their projects. So welcome. Please let me know if you have any questions at any point throughout this presentation and then beyond.
Yes, so if you have any questions, we have included our email addresses for you to join us and send us an email. We have been pretty good about responding within 48 hours, if not much sooner. And if you can reach me, just send an email to Kellyanne. She will make sure I respond to all your questions. Next slide. The agenda for today, what we're going to do is a brief NIFA USDA overview, an overview of the HSI program. We're going to talk about some details of the request for applications. We're going to mention or cover the proposal evaluation process. And I'm going to mention at least one of the funding opportunities that I think you might be interested. And we're gonna give you deadlines and links for other presentations. And then we also have a couple of additional information and resources. And of course, we're gonna have some time for questions and answers. NIFA overview, next slide. Again, we work at the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and this is the extramural agency within USDA. We are located at, within the Research, Education, and Economics area, mission area. And what we do is we invest to support initiatives to ensure long-term viability of agriculture. And we also provide funding and strategic leadership for programs that ensure groundbreaking discoveries in agriculture-related sciences and technologies to reach the people who can put them into practice. Again, by being the extramural arm of USDA, what we do is we get funding, and most of the work we do is through our partnerships with the institutions and agencies, other agencies and organizations. Next slide. So NIFA, we're invest to advance ag research, education, and extension. And what we're trying to do is solve social problems. So working in tandem, all these three areas are working together. First, we would like to fund research. And through research, we find solutions to common problems and complex problems that we're facing. Education, while we have all these information, we actually want to train people in food and ag sciences to actually generate the next group of scientists, educators, and producers and citizens. So we all inform. And through the third arm or section, extension, what we want to do is bring all this information to the general public. So as we work in agriculture or in our lives, we actually use all these concepts that we have developed through our research, all this knowledge. Next lesson. One of the things as an HSI, you might or not might have a food and ag science program, but the whole idea is to create and develop these programs. That's the role of the HSI Education Grants program. So we cover all these topics, advanced technology, animals, business and economics, farming, human resources, plants, health, international and global food security, natural resources. So you might not have a program in these distinct disciplines, but you might have something, a program that actually you could build upon. For example, you might have a business program, so on an economics program, so you could work on developing an agribusiness program, natural resources economics, small businesses, and so on and so forth. So please do not disqualify yourself from actually applying for the grants because you might not have a program in food and ag sciences. The whole idea of the grant program is develop programs with institutions that do not have any programming and enhance the programs of the institutions that do have a program per se. Okay, next slide. At NIFA, we have 4 science institutes. The Institute of Bioenergy, Climate and Environment, the Institute of Food Production and Sustainability, the Institute of Food Safety and Nutrition, and the Institute of Youth, Family, and Community, and the HSI Hispanic-Serving Institution Education Grants Program, and all the education programs are mostly located in this institute. Next slide. Program overview. I know you're all interested in trying to find out deadlines and information, specific information for the Hispanic-Serving Institutions program. So here we have the deadlines that are in January. So you have about 2 months since the release of the RFA to actually complete the application. And please notice that the regular collaboration and conference grant have different deadlines. And the whole idea is that if you want to submit institution wants to submit more than one application, you actually could see, you have your specific day to submit the applications, and it's easier for you to process in your institution. A couple of things are important for you to remember is the program code, because you have to put that in the application. In the AL number, also, you will need to put it in the application. We have a budget of about $12 million. So, which is an increase from a few years that we had $9 million. So we have anticipate a budget of $12 million. We have the link here for the HSI program. And you could actually do a search if you go to our website in do a search on HSI or the word Hispanic. Next slide. Purpose and priorities. Again, what do we want to do? And I have been mentioning this earlier. We want to attract and support undergraduates and graduate students from underrepresented groups and prepare them for careers related to food and ag sciences, natural resources. We want to enhance the quality of post-secondary instruction in the food and ag sciences. Again, if you have a program, we want to kind of bring it up to date, improve it as necessary, expand it. And if you don't have a program, we want to develop programs so you can actually reach the students in your institution. We also want to provide opportunities and access to food and ag sciences careers in public and private sectors. And we also want to align the efforts of the HSIs and other nonprofit to support academic development and career attainment of underrepresented students. And as you can see, there's an emphasis on underrepresented students. Again, your HSI program, you will know that you're likely to have a whole lot of students that not only underrepresented, but many times first-time generations students. Next slide. And what we do is we follow this simple model. USDA gets $12 million that go through NIFA, and we fund HSIs or Hispanic-Serving agricultural colleges and universities. And this group is a subset of the HSIs. These are the institutions that they do actually have a food and ag program, but we fund all HSIs. So if your full-time enrollment of Hispanics is 25%, you're likely to qualify for this program. And what we do is we train students for 2 or 4 years. We, through the programming of within the grants, we support summer internships at USDA, the regional centers, nonprofits, the state and county organizations, and you actually develop these partnerships and actually help the students get placed. And once they complete the 2-year, 4-year or a master's degree, and we have a group of outstanding students, one of the things we have tried to do is place them back at USDA, and not only at NIFA, but all the agencies that are part of USDA, including Forest Service, Foreign Ag Service, Food and Nutrition Service, National Resource Conservation Service, and all these other agencies that are part of USDA. Next slide. So what do we fund? Well, we call these program need areas. We fund activities that we think that if you improve on these areas, you actually will have a great food and ag program. And it could be from the beginning, curriculum design, materials development, and library resources, or it could be preparing the faculty, instructional delivery system. It could be buying equipment for teaching. It could be providing experiential learning, or it could be student recruitment and retention. And it depends where you are. If you're an institution that do not have any programming in food and ag sciences, well, you might need to develop curricula, and you might need to prepare the faculty. And you might actually need to have student recruitment and retention activities for the program or the classes you develop. We don't expect you to develop a program in one grant, but you could actually build by developing certain courses, maybe 3-4 courses in one grant, develop a certificate, develop an emphasis, and so on and so forth, develop a 2-year program, and move on until you get a 4-year degree. Next slide. Okay, and again, here some of the topics that we cover in food and agricultural sciences. And as I mentioned before, you might think, you might think, oh, I don't have a program in plant germ plants collection and preservation, but you might have a biology program, and you could expand on that. You might have or not might have a big data program, but you might have a computer science program, or you might have a mathematics program. So build upon what you have. Nutritional sciences and promotion. So think about what you have, what areas of interest, what are the needs within your community. And then by doing that, you could figure out what sciences, what areas you need, you could use and direct your initiative, your project, your research, and your proposal. Eligibility. As I mentioned earlier, this is the Hispanic-Serving Education Grants Program. So therefore, all institutions that apply, the main applicant must have a minimum of 25% of undergraduate full-time enrollment, Hispanic enrollment. And if you have a Title V grant for the Department of Education, you have a letter, you're qualified. You don't have to have the letter. You just need to make sure if you're a new upcoming HSI, you just reach the 25% at the, at least at the time of application, that you have the data to prove that you have the students and the enrollment, Hispanic enrollment. Next slide. Okay, one of the things, some of you might be applying for the first time, or maybe you have a bigger program and want to submit more than one application. So we have included some limits here. You might not submit more than 2 collaborations and 2 conference applications as a lead institution. There's no limit on the number of regular applications that you can submit as a lead institution. And one of the things that is important is you could actually collaborate with other institutions and participate as a collaborator, not as a lead institution. It's in as many applications as your institution wishes. We're only making 2 awards per institution in FY22. With up to 1 being a collaboration award. Conference grants are excluded from award limitations, which means that you could write an application for a collaboration, a regular project, and a conference award, and you could get all 3. Again, you can receive awards in FY2022, which I'm still trying to get used to say it, because I can't believe we're already just nearing 2022. So you're not supposed to have more than 5 active NIFA HSI specific. And I get that question. So if I have 2 grants from the Department of Education, do I still qualify for the USDA HSI grants? And the answer is yes. This limitation is based on the applications that you have with us at the HSI Education Grants Program. Next slide. Okay. I have a question here in the chat, and I'm gonna just answer it. There is no limit for regular applications from the institution, but if a PD, I have current USDA project, do I qualify to submit another proposal? And the answer is yes, as long as you have the time. You don't wanna have more than 100% coverage or and workload. The other thing is your application, your next application should be different. So all the application needs to be different, not for the same project. So one of the things the application might ask you is the project types. All the HSI grants are education, and the different types are the ones we were just talking about, regular, collaboration, and conference. And you have noticed here on the upper right side corner, we are letting you know in the presentation where to find more information about the different topics that we're covering. Okay, next slide. HSI Regular Grant. Again, we want to support target original scientific education teaching projects. You could partner on the regular projects with other HSIs or non-HSIs, but it's up to you. The whole idea is that this project benefits your institution. And if you need to collaborate with an HSI or a non-HSI to achieve the goals, then they could be partners. The budget is $250,000 total, and you could get an additional $25,000 to support one underrepresented student. The timelines, it's 4 years, 48 months. So in the past, we had, like a while ago, we had 2-year projects, but what has happened is because many people are developing coursework, it always took a little bit longer to actually complete the projects. So what we have done is giving you the 48 months, so you actually have enough time to complete the project. Again, there's no limit in the number of regular applications submitted per institution. Next slide. We also have an HSI regular bridge grant. So if your institution has never received an HSI grant, and you apply and you score high enough and not high enough to get funded, the panelists could actually point that out to the team, and we could fund you at a level of $200,000. So instead of funding you at $250,000, we'll fund you at $200,000 to give you the opportunity to join the USDA HSI family and actually start collaborating with you and working with you and helping you get engaged in the activities we do. Okay, and on the budget for the regular projects, like we just pointed out in the chat, the budget will go up to $275,000. Next slide. So we covered the regular and bridge grants, and here is a project at Texas State, and what we're funding here is STEM ag related activities. Yeah, and what we're trying to do is get more students and support more underrepresented students and get them engaged in careers in science, technology, engineer, agricultural sciences, or mathematics. And one of the things that is important, if you have never been awarded an HSI grant, I will write that line in your application saying you would like to be considered for a bridge grant. Okay, next slide. Another regular grant example, we funded Columbia Basin College, and what we're trying to do is complete outreach events and hands-on learning experiences for high school students, their parents, and provide professional development workshops, again in STEM, using STEM faculty, reaching out to the students, providing them internships, and increase their knowledge and their get them engaged in food and ag sciences. Many times we see agriculture as working on the farm, and that is agriculture, but there are a lot of professional careers that our students might not be aware that we like to expose them and prepare them for. Next slide. Okay, on page 10 of the RFA, we start talking about the HSI Collaboration Grants, and these are the larger grants. And the goal of the collaboration grants is to develop competitive projects that attract new students into high priority career fields. To be eligible for this grant, 2 or more HSIs for some linkage arrangements, some partnerships, and they commit to recruit together and graduate a minimum of 15 undergraduate students and 10 graduate students. And the 2-year institutions will be thinking, well, can I be part of this? Yes, but you do need to link with an institution that provides the bachelor's degree to move the students, and an institution that provides master programs or PhD programs to fulfill the 10 graduate students requirement. Again, the whole idea is to develop a cohort of students, 25 students, that will be working together to complete that degree. They could be at the 2 years, start at the 2-year college, some could start at the 4-year institution, and some need to start in the graduate school. The budget is $1 million, or about $250,000 for students. Time frame continues to be 4 years, and you cannot submit more than 2 applications per lead institution. And the whole idea is that when you start the project, you recruit at least 25 students, and at the end of the program, we graduate at least 25 students. Many of the successful applications in the past, they have actually recruited more students, and they have graduated more students. So usually successful applicants include some kind of stipend from the graduate students, because we consider the undergraduate students could get the general assistance for enrollment in college. Okay, next slide. And here is an example of California State University, Monterey Bay, and what they have done is work with other different institutions to develop a regional pipeline. And this project, what it's trying to work is in the topic of sustainable agriculture education. And instead of trying to do all the recruitment in one school, they're actually working together in partnerships with community college and community organizations, even the industry, to actually find all these students and develop this cohort of students. Next slide. HSI Conference Grant, it's just a smaller grant. And what we're trying to do here is support the opportunity for you to meet in a scientific meeting and bring together educators to discuss local regional problems. This is one award for HSI. So we're gonna have a number of conference grants, but specifically, I want to call your attention to let you know that we're gonna have one award for an HSI project that we like to call it HSI Assessment and Evaluation Conference. And this is new in 2022. what we're trying to do here is gather HSIs to discuss the potential opportunity to develop an assessment and evaluation of the HSI program. So if any of you is interested in applying for that, we could actually provide you more details. You could give us a call and we could discuss these conference award. And that's the one award. Other conference awards could be to gather together and align your curriculum to make sure your projects, your students could move from the 2-year institutions to the 4-year institutions. It could be to determine the disciplines and the needs that your region, state has. So it is up to you what the conference grants it will be supporting. And the time frame for these is 36 months. And I just got on the chat a question if the culinary program will qualify you as a field in agriculture, and the answer is yes. We have found in the past certification for food safety for the culinary programs, and we have added nutrition to the culinary programs, and no more than 2 applications per the lead institution. So you could actually send up to 2 applications for the lead institution, and this section is covered in pages 10 to 11 of the RFA. Next slide. And I have an example here. Dr. Gloria White at St. Edward's University was funded for a conference entitled Building STEAM, Science, Technology, Engineering, Agriculture, and Mathematics at Texas Hispanic-Serving institutions. And this is a 2019 award. Next slide. Cost share or matching, the cost sharing or matching requirements for the HSI program was removed a couple of years ago. If you have volunteered to provide some matching, it will not be factoring in the review process as an evaluation criteria. Okay, next slide. Application details. Again, the RFA is available online. We posted a few weeks ago, and the deadlines are vary by type of application. January 26 for the regular projects, January 27 for the collaboration, and January 28 for the conference grants. Please notice that the deadline is 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if this is in California, your deadline will be 2 p.m. Eastern, will be 2 p.m. because it's at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please make sure you bring that to the attention of the person submitting the application, because it's not local time. They changed that this year. So the deadline again is 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And all the applications are submitted through grants.gov. Anticipated funding availability is $12 million. The program code and the AL number are important things to keep in mind, because you need to have them available when you're submitting the application. And that information is located in the RFA on page 7. Okay, and that's a good catch, Kellyanne. Conference grant does not allow indirect costs. Some details that are important. You have to have a 1-page summary page. The project narrative has a 25-page limit and it will be strictly enforced. So that what happens is pages 26 to 100 will not be read by the reviewers. So please make sure you limit yourself to these 25 pages. Double space, that was a concern last time. Some people were sending applications at 1.5 spacing or just single spacing. No, we would like to have double spaced applications written in 12-point Times Roman font. The tables might be single space for the sake of actually making them readable. So include text, figures, and tables, all these 25 pages. So we also need to include the budget, a data management plan, expected outcomes, and if you are a resubmission application, please make sure you include a response to previous reviews. One of the things that happens is that you might want to resubmit your application, but if you haven't made any changes to the application would not be acceptable. So we want to make sure you listen to the comments from the reviewers and you send us this application, the application with 1 page telling us that you responded to the reviewer comments. For example, the reviewers might say the application does not serve an acceptable number of students. Well, you could write on page such and such, we increase the number of students from 5 to 20. Or the application might say, you don't have enough staff to complete these, the staff workload seems to be high. But then you could write another sentence saying we are increase the staff available to actually implement the project. So kind of be specific, and you could actually include on the page where you are actually addressing the previous comments from the reviewers. And here in blue, in the bubble, we have a nice list of topics that we need to include in the main application. The potential for advancing the quality of education, the proposed approach and cooperative linkages, who's working with you, and the proposed approach is like the recipe for actually getting the project done and achieving the goals, objectives, and outcomes and impacts. You need to include a plan of operation and methodology timetable. Of course, the products, results, and measurable outcomes. And I am going to emphasize measurable outcomes. So if you want to increase recruitment by 25%, what is your base number of students in the program, and what will be, how you're going to measure it to see that they have increased by 25%. Evaluation plans, a logic model. We have encouraged all previous applicants to collaborate with different USDA agencies, basically because it helps you to understand the food and ag sciences as we see it at USDA and the type of work that we do. For example, climate change is a large, it's a big topic these days. Nutrition, food deserts, and how can we prepare the next generation of people that are going to be working on these areas. And another area is foreign ag service, that you could actually work with them to develop the students with the credentials necessary for to work at the foreign ag service. It could be NRCS. We learn over time that there's some soils classes that are necessary to get a job at certain occupations at the Natural Resource Conservation Service. And some of the HSIs had a ranch management or land management programs, but they did not offer the soil science class. So the students will have a bachelor's degree, but would not be able to apply for certain types of jobs. So the institutions, what they did is they developed the soils programs, and actually by working with USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service, they align and they make sure that the students were graduating with the requisites necessary to apply for the different positions. The other way of collaborating with USDA agencies is it's working with them to develop internships programs, apprenticeship programs, shadowing programs, bringing and inviting speakers from USDA to talk to your students. So there are many ways of that you can use to actually collaborate with USDA. In the proposal, we also want you to include the dissemination plans, into institutional capability and capacity building, and the key personnel. And make sure that as you look on pages 15 to 23, you make sure that you have all the forms necessary for the key personnel. Next slide. Data management plan. The investigators must provide detailed business and management plans up to 2 pages. And here is the different things that we want you to include in these pages. And the whole idea is that you have a clear vision of how the project is going to operate once you get funded. Here's the link here with some additional resources that are important. I encourage you to actually go to that link and see what resources we have available. And I think there's more information on the data management plan. Next slide. Application submission. Right now, in this age of technology, ANIFA only accepts electronic submissions of applications, no more paper applications. And we have a grants application guide available at the link listed here. And another important thing, in addition to reminding the people or the person or the group of people working on submitting your application that the deadline is 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the other thing that you need to do is make sure all the documents are submitted in PDF, portable document format. So if at the 11th hour you have to make a change in your document, do not forget to actually change it back to PDF because the system that receives the applications cannot read the system. What we get is a lot of scribble. Again, grants.gov might allow other formats, but NIFA does not. Please use PDF portable document format. I don't want you to be spend 3 weeks, a month or more writing an application and then it's submitted in Word and we cannot actually read it or use it or evaluate it. And all these application submissions are guidelines are described in page 14 and 15 of the RFA. Now we're going to move from the requirements to actually talk about the proposal evaluation process. The process, this is what happens to your application. Once you submit it and make the deadline, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it goes through grants.gov, and you're gonna receive a confirmation from them. And this is not here, but it is important for you to know that grants.gov first receives the proposals, and then they're sent to the NIFA grant system. And you please make sure you get a confirmation from NIFA saying that we have received your application. So you're actually gonna receive 2 acknowledgement emails, one from grants.gov and one from NIFA once the HSI program staff receives the application. If 2 weeks pass by and you haven't received that NIFA acknowledgement, please contact us as soon as possible. So look for those emails. Okay, so now we have you have received the 2 acknowledgement emails, and we're evaluating the process. We have a panel manager that have recruited panelists, and with the different disciplines. So every proposal gets assigned at least 3 reviewers with expertise in the proposed topic. We assign the proposals, we send them out to the reviewers. Every reviewer will produce an individual review of each proposal, evaluating the strengths and weaknesses of the proposal. These reviews are used at the beginning of the panel to develop discussions. And through the discussions, the individual evaluations might change. And the different panelists, the 3 or more panelists, and the panel in general will actually discuss the proposal. And so through these discussions, the peer review panelists come to a consensus, the final ranking of the proposal. So, and the whole idea is that by having more than 1 reviewer, we have a more sound evaluation of the proposal. So it's not 1 person's opinion or 2 persons' opinion. It's going to be the 3 original reviewers and a table of reviewers that will get to a consensus of where your proposal ranks. The proposal evaluation process is discussed in more detail on page 24 of the RFA. Okay, evaluation criteria. This listed on discussed on page 25 of the RFA. One of the things that is important is that when I was talking about what to include in the text of the proposal and the body of the proposal, in addition to the budget and other forms that you need to complete, well, we talking about the potential for advancing quality of education, the significance of the problem. This is very important. And it's part of the evaluation criteria. So make sure these evaluation criteria are covered in the body of your proposal. The proposal approach and cooperative linkages, institutional capability and capacity building, key personnel, budget, and cost effectiveness. So one of the things is important that you make it easier for the reviewers to find answers, and it makes it easier for them to evaluate you in these 5 items. So you want to make sure that you're clear on the potential, your proposal of the project. And I have told people in the past that projects that solve problems tend to be very good. Make sure you document the problem and how you're going to address the problem and how you're going to advance the quality of education. The proposed approach, again, it will be like a recipe of how you're going to do that, who needs to be involved. Make sure you provide the detail and help the evaluating team see that you have thought about this project, and once you get the money, you'll be ready to go, that you're not thinking of, or you're not missing points that are important. For example, you're developing an athletics program and you forget to talk that the program needs to be approved by a certain organization. So please include some details and be thoughtful on the words that you choose to describe the proposed approach. Again, institutional capability and capacity building. Is your institution on board? Does your institution support these activities? Are these activities that you're proposing part of the institutional long-term or short-term goals? Key personnel, is the key personnel appropriate and enough? Are you you have too much key personnel and things like that? Also, the budget and cost effectiveness, it is important. Make sure you are reasonable in your budget, and sometimes we put a little bit cushion in there just in case, but you have to understand that the reviewers are professors, faculties, and administrators just like you, and they will know that to buy computers, you don't need to spend $3,000 for each computer. So be reasonable and use the cost your budget effectively. The other thing that is important is that it's reasonable and that you serve a good number of students. And this is the money. Many times the panelists like to see that you include some funding for the students. So if necessary, you want to make sure that the budget is sound and it's reasonable. Next slide. Timelines. We have, NIFA have been trying to work on the timelines of the programs. So the request for application release and writing and planning and the time the proposals are due, we're giving you at least 60 days. And I think we might have a few extra days in this case, since the proposal was, the RFA was released. So we also have 2 to 3 months for the proposal to go on the review and have the proposal notifications for funding. So therefore, if let's say the proposals are due at the end of January, so by the middle of April, late April, we will be letting you know when who's gonna be funded. We'll be calling. One other things happened, a part of this process, we like to give the reviewers a month to read the proposal. So that's why it takes a little bit much longer than we all would like. And then the proposals are finalized and made 1 or 2 months afterwards. So the earliest recommended date to start proposed activities will be August of 2022. Again, as I mentioned before, reach out to program staff if you do not receive a confirmation application from NIFA within 30 days. Yeah, I'll say 15 will be okay. That means something went wrong in your application. And that usually is because you didn't use the code NJ in your application. of the AL was incorrect. So please make sure you actually complete those correctly. Again, 2 acknowledgement emails, one from grants.gov and another one from NIFA. And please reach out to us if you have not received them. Okay, next slide. Success stories. Oh my gosh, yeah. Malawi, are you with us? Dr. Garcia?
I am. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yes, thank you for having me. My name is Malawi Garcia. I'm an assistant professor at California State University, Long Beach. We're an HSI here in Southern California. So I'm excited to share with you all about our successful applications. So recently we applied for a project called LINK, Leveraging Interdisciplinary Nutritional Knowledge. I was just thinking back a year ago, Dr. Lawrence did a similar webinar and I participated, and I really started thinking about what ideas I had in the past and what we've done that could prepare us to apply. And we actually applied later in January, and we started our grant in August. So definitely, I think one of the key things is joining webinars like this one to learn from project officers, to hear insights and tips that'll help you prepare is very important. Besides this LINK project, we also have 2 other current projects at the center that are funded by NIFA AFRI, so I'll talk about that. We have an Eat, Play, Go Healthy Families in Long Beach study. This one looks at research, education, and extension. So our center that I'll talk about in just a few minutes focuses on all those areas. So we usually will apply for programs to do obesity research, obesity prevention among families in Long Beach. But at the same time, we include students to really prepare them to go out into the workforce. So that one, Eat, Play, Go is a combination of education, extension, and also research. And then Andale, Latino Research Training Program, was funded in 2020. We're going to be training 50 undergraduate students in a 4-year university at an HSI. We have 10 faculty collaborators. I'm in the health science department. I have faculty collaborators from Family and Consumer Sciences, nutrition, RD programs. Also, I work with faculty in kinesiology and physical therapy. Although we're in different departments, our focus is really chronic disease prevention and management, so we can come together and train students in these areas. Andale is the second cycle of funding that we've received from the REEU initiative. Prior to that, we had one in 2017 that also looked at training students. So Andale stands for Advancing Nutrition Development through Alliances for Leadership and Education. So things that we learned from our 2017 implementation really helped us to prepare a strong application for 2020. We had learned some lessons. We had partnered with the University of North, and really we learned what worked and what didn't. For our second cycle of Andale, we decided to keep all of the students with us at our university because it allowed us to have more control of their programming. We were able to make sure that they were in fact receiving the training they needed. So just some of the things that we learned from that. So a little bit about our center to tell you kind of how we're positioned for this is our center looks to improve, promote, and advocate for the well-being of Latino communities in Long Beach, California, and LA County, and also across the country. And our focus areas are health. We focus a lot on obesity prevention for Latino families, training of students, so students again in health science, nutrition, and kin, and then evaluation of programs. At the same time, we're an HSI, right? So it positions us to look at different grants from USDA HSI funding, as well as grants focused on health and promotion. So because of that, I primarily look to get funding from AFRI, so the Agricultural and Food Research Initiative under NIFA. So we look at the needs of our students. I am a first-generation Latino student that has actually been working on USD programs since 2007. So I've definitely seen the benefits of enrolling students, training them, and preparing them for the workforce. So we look to continue to train students. We published a paper recently on the benefits to undergraduates and graduates at Cal State. I can't tell you enough. I still get emails and letters from students that have graduated years before about how important and crucial this training was to them to even make them consider applying for graduate programs, to really make them feel prepared to go into PhD programs or into the workforce. So Andale, is something that we really value here at the university. Our center is one of the few centers in our health science department that really takes in so many students. Even during COVID, all of the faculty were able to continue engaging students. So we had one full cohort do stuff during COVID. We engaged them on Zoom. They did data entry, they did virtual health education, they did virtual training. So we were very fortunate to do that. So when I think about, how am I going to apply for the grants? Well, our Andale grant was ending last year, and we usually follow the USDA funding cycles. So I already know that there's going to be funding, an application due in January, or I know that some of the other ones are due in June. So I look to see, is there something that is ending? Let's start planning ahead. Or is there something new that we want to propose, which is what happened with Link. I attended the webinar, and based on working with our Andale scholars, we realized that there's a need to collaborate with community colleges. Our Link program has 4 community college collaborators and 2 four-year universities. Our students coming in from the community colleges say, I wish I would have started something like this at community college, but there's nothing like it. So insight from our current scholars in Andale really helped us to see that there's a need at the community colleges. And one thing that we found by reaching out is that there's also champions at the community colleges that want to see their students prepare and be motivated to transfer into 4 years. So things that I learned specifically through the Link grant, so if any of you are going to consider applying, is university administration is difficult to reach. It doesn't mean they're not interested in helping you, but they're busy. They don't have the time. They have a million emails coming through. So you really have to early on find champions that'll work with you and push your documents through their university staff. So that can be faculty, it can be research staff, it could be program staff, advisors, or counselors. Start early. It's early in December. You still have a few weeks before people take their Christmas break, right? So propose an idea, send a concept, schedule a meeting, let people think about it, and then pull them back in early January, right? Because they're going to need help with their applications. A lot of community colleges and even our CSU four-year partner, they've never applied for USDA funding. They've never submitted through grants.gov. So they really needed a lot of assistance with getting the agreements reviewed by their university, getting those signed, submitting their subcontractor forms. So the things that we do to facilitate that is provide checklists, have check-in meetings, provide example documents. Here's what our budget justification looks like. Here's what our budget template looks like, just to really help them move those things forward. Also, make sure that you use current university data. So we start early by requesting data from the university. Okay, what are the enrollment rates from the community colleges? What majors? And then on the community college side, we find out what are the barriers that students are facing, when trying to enroll into the CSUs. So that's been really helpful for us to be able to include current data, really try to point out the need at our university, and then the success that we've had from prior programs hopefully shows the USDA and our reviewers that we're positioned and ready to carry out the work. And then also consider academic cycles and student commitments. So one of the reasons that we are successful in recruiting students into our programs, again, we're an HSI, so we focus on underrepresented minority students. We used to focus only on Latino students, and since in our second Andale, we've actually extended that to underrepresented. But one thing we're finding out is that underrepresented first-generation students all face similar barriers to participation, which includes heavy class loads, heavy workloads, family responsibilities. So we really try to make sure that we have enough funding for students to be able to engage in our study and maybe not have to work because they're receiving financial aid scholarships. So I think that's very important. And also making students realize that there has to be a little sacrifice on their end. Maybe they're not working a full-time job, but they're benefiting from the training, the networking, the experience and exposure that will prepare them to go into their next career step. So a lot of our students say, I never considered a master's. My family was so happy that I was getting a bachelor's, but now in being involved in our center, seeing the graduate students on different programs really helps them to see themselves in a higher education. So I'll stop there. I've said a lot. I don't know, Dr. Lawrence, if there's anything else you want me to add or if you want me to answer any questions.
This is fine, and I'd like to acknowledge Namiloi that she was a student and a product of one of the HSI grants, and so it's great to see you here in receiving a grant, bringing somebody in from the community could actually increase the number of participants, of advocates. So one of the things that happens when you give a role to some of the students and help you with the project, they could actually become the next project director. And as you could see, Dr. Garcia Vega has been very successful. So congratulations to you, Dr. Garcia Vega, and thank you for sharing your story and your success with us.
Yes, no problem. And before I go, I did want to add just the importance of staying connected to the USDA through LinkedIn. Dr. Lawrence is my connection on LinkedIn, and so are other USDA staff. I also follow the different pages. I receive the weekly digest in my email, so I always find out about what's happening with USDA. And I also keep in touch by sharing progress. If we get a paper published, I'm excited to share it with the USDA so they know what I'm doing, and this is why they know that maybe I'm a good person to talk to you today, because they know they've been able to keep in touch with my progress. So definitely important to stay connected, in different ways. And I think the USDA staff does a really great job at being, visible online, sending emails. So I really appreciate that as well. Thank you.
And thank you. Next slide. Let's just move forward. We're running over time. There's some information how to find previously funded projects using CRES. Next slide. Upcoming events. We have a NIFA events calendar, so please go and visit it. So you can see different webinars, different grants programs. And just a reminder that at NIFA, there's more programs that the HSIs could qualify. So look at the calendar. Look at the RFA release calendar too. And I wanted to mention a couple of things. One is we want to have some HSI grants program office hours in January 11 at 1 p.m. Central. And that will give you the opportunity to ask questions. I would like to mention that Marielsi Avila just wrote on the chat that if you want to work with Foreign Ag Service, that you could contact her, and she wrote her email. So please contact her if you want to work with the Foreign Ag Service on international trade. Her email is marielsi.avila@usda.gov. So please, if you want to work in that topic, contact her. Again, we're going to have office hours January 11. Next slide. Other resources, funding opportunities, competitive grants program flowchart, policy guide, indirect costs. If you have questions, indirect costs, just go to that link. And it's going to take about 1 or 2 weeks for us to post these and send the presentation and post the recording. But if you take your phone out and take a picture of this, you will actually get to the resources sooner than that. Next slide. The equipment grants. There's, many of you would like to beef off your, your labs. Equipment grant. There's a good amount of funding, $4.8 million For equipment, please consider this application, this program. Next slide. There's other funding opportunities, and here are some of the deadlines. Malawi mentioned our EEU, which is a program for experiential learning. We have professional development for ag literacy for K-12, agricultural workforce training, beginner farmers and ranchers. We have other programs that you could qualify. Higher Education Challenge Grants Program, if you have a 4-year program in food and ag sciences. And for these are the proposed deadlines, but please look at our NIFA RFA calendar to double check those dates. Next slide. Yes, we're getting to the end. One of the best ways of learning about the RFA process and to learn what happens to your proposals once you write it and become a better grant writer is to volunteer to be a reviewer, so you could see how other people look at the proposals and evaluate them, and sometimes dissect them and look at the details and what are they missing and et cetera, et cetera. So if you want to be a reviewer, you could volunteer going to the link listed here. One of the things happens if you're not a USDA employee or a federal government employee, you will get a small stipend of $225 per day, and the panel usually is 3 days. And we'll send you the proposals, give you about a month to read it, at least 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. And you will become an insider and know what goes on during the peer review process. And it will also give you the opportunity to network with NIFA program staff and other researchers, educators, and maybe find your next collaborator in that application. Next slide. Again, thanks so much for Kellyanne to working with me, and we'll be happy to answer questions. And I know we are out of time.